Hey, what's up, fellas? How you doing, man? Antonelli here.
Hey, what's going on, guys? How we doing? Man, Antonelli here. Today, we're talking about pitching velocities and how they have just exploded over the last 15, 20 years. Uh, Fastball velocities are just ridiculously insane. But the question is, we're going to go over kind of the increase in fastball velocity, but then also, can it continue? Can it keep going up? How much more can it actually keep going up? Because at this point, it has gotten pretty crazy, okay? So before we get into that, today's video is powered by Triton. If you guys watch our stuff, you know that we wear their gear and jerseys. Go check their stuff out. Go to custombaseballjerseys.com. You can see everything over there. I highly recommend that you do so. Okay, so fastball velocities. First, before we get into this, if you're a pitcher, right, put in the comment section below how much you train specifically for velocity now. Okay, so put that in the comment section below. If you're a pitcher, do you train? Do you throw weighted balls? There's a bunch of different ways that you can train fastball velocity. Put in the comment section below. I'd be interested to hear. Okay, so I wrote down a couple of stats for you guys that kind of highlight where velocity's gone, how much it's kind of increased over the last 10, 15, almost 20 years, okay? So the first stat that I jotted down is the league average strikeout rate, which has gone way up, right? Faster velos are going to equal more strikeouts, okay? Even though everybody, I've talked about this before, everyone's like, it's the launch angle stuff. That's why no one can hit. That's why everyone's striking out, because everyone's trying to hit home runs, right? They're trying to just hit the ball straight up into the cage, all this launch angle stuff. Now, maybe we'll get into that in a different video because I don't want to get away from the fastball velocities too much. But power has been proven, right? Teams want power, just like teams want our fastball velos and strikeouts. Home runs, doubles, slugging percentage is more valuable than just hitting singles. And with that comes a few more strikeouts. Now, are some guys striking out at an unacceptable rate? Yes, there's some guys that strike out, probably too much. But if you strike out a ton, but you can still hit a ton of home runs, then you can still be considered valuable, okay? So there's only a few guys that can hit 35, 40 home runs and not strike out a ton. It's very difficult. To hit a home run, you've got to be big, you got to be strong, you got to swing pretty fast and pretty hard, and those guys typically strike out a little bit more. Not everybody can be Mike Trout and Mookie Betts. Okay, I digress. I'm not going to go into that much more. Let's get back into the fastball velos. So strikeouts. Listen to the strikeouts, how much they've gone up over these last few years, okay? I've got this quick stat for you. The league average strikeout rate, okay, in 1998 was about 17, a little under 17%, okay? So a little under 17% in 98. 10 years later, it was 17.5%, okay? So it increased a little bit more than a half a percent, almost a percent, okay? And then 10 years later, it was almost 23%, okay? So that, it might not seem like a big jump, but that's a big jump in strikeouts, okay? 27% actually, and I'm no mathematician, but that's 27% over a 10-year period or so, okay? So that's a big, big jump in strikeouts, okay? Fastball velos. It is difficult when a guy's throwing, 100 miles an hour. Hitting's already the hardest thing to do in sport, okay? I think so. Ted Williams said so. He was a pretty good hitter. It is so difficult to be able to read the pitch, right? You got 4/10 of a second to be able to read the pitch, decide where it's going, what's it going to be. A fastball is a curveball. Then I've got to be able to actually put it in play or make contact, okay? But when we're throwing 100, all of a sudden that reaction time gets even less, which becomes even more difficult, okay? So now I basically got to just swing almost out of the hand, right? Like I face some guys who are throwing 100 miles an hour, and you better be ready for the fastball, and it's still tough to hit. And if he throws you anything but a fastball, good luck, right? If he just flashes a curveball for a strike, and you've got to be ready for a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, it's almost impossible to hit. All right. So there's one stat for you, right? Now let's look at a couple other things. If you look at the bullpen now, right? Like the bullpen is crazy now. Where if you want to throw in the bullpen, pretty much every arm out of the bullpen is like 95 plus miles an hour. Okay, And I've talked about this on here before. Like when I was a kid and I watched baseball, there was like only a handful of guys that threw 95, 96, 97 miles an hour, right? Like I remember Billy Wagner. Billy Wagner was really popular back when I was, a kid. And he would come in and be like, boom, like 96, boom, 96, 90, maybe 97, 96, somewhere around there. And it was like, oh my, Billy Wagner, unbelievable. This guy throws absolute fuego. Like nobody can touch this guy. Now it's like, here comes 96, here comes 99, here comes 102, here comes 99. It's like every guy throws over 95 miles an hour. Like when a guy comes out of the bullpen now and it's like 92, 93, you're like the hell is that gun broken? Like what the hell's going on here? Like everybody throws over 95 miles an hour now. Okay, so that just makes it even more difficult. You face a starter now who throws whatever, and then here comes the bullpen guy throwing 100 miles an hour. All right. Let's look at some other things that I wrote. That I just want to again give you an idea of how much the fastball velos have increased. So let's see here. From 2008 to 2016, okay, the average fastball went up right about a half a mile an hour every 2 years, okay? So every 2 years it went up. It was about 90 miles an hour in '08, the average fastball. And then 8 years later, 2016, is that 8 years later? I think it is, 93 miles an hour. So it's gone up about a half a mile an hour every 2 years. So it's consistently been going up since 2006. From '08 to 2016, okay? But here's the thing. Since that, it's stopped. So since 2006, it hasn't gone up. It's actually, I think, starting to just kind of even out and maybe even starting to dip just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit, okay? But it's not going up anymore. Now, it'll be interesting to see over the next couple years if this is just a little lull, or if it's going to go, is a lull and it's going to start going back up again, or is this kind of it? Like, have we reached the limit here that at least for a little while, or maybe forever, where, hey, my body can only move so fast, my arm can only move so fast, my arm can only handle moving so fast, right? I can't, no matter what we do, even if we do become 300 pounds and, pitchers are 7'2" and, we train with some new thing that comes out, listen, we're at the limit, man. Like maybe we can squeeze out another half a mile an hour on that average or so, but that's it. So it'll be interesting. The other thing that could affect that average a little bit is maybe, there's a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys in the minor leagues that can throw high 90s, right? Like I remember back in the low minor leagues especially, you get a lot of guys that are throwing high 90s, but the balls are going all over the place. So Major League Baseball has made an emphasis on getting guys that throw harder because it leads to more strikeouts, and more strikeouts, less balls in play, that really helps. But you also can't walk a ton of guys when you do that, right? So, if you can strike out a ton, you throw 100, you strike out a ton, but you also walk the ballpark, you have to be able to balance that when you're deciding, all right, is this guy worth, putting on our big league roster? And so, maybe with the more and more guys that are throwing hard, and, if those guys can start to figure out, we get more and more and more guys, well, now more of those guys are going to eventually figure out how to throw some more strikes. So maybe the average fastball does start to tick up a little bit more as we keep going. But are we ever going to get a guy that throws, 105 or 106? I don't even know what the actually highest velocity pitch is. 105, I think, might be. Put in the comment section below if you do. I should have looked up the exact highest pitch of all time. I didn't. I think it's somewhere around there. Okay, so maybe we do tick up a little bit because we're able to bring up a few more guys. When we get more and more guys that are able to throw, 100 miles an hour, that's going to kick the average up a little bit. And command does have something to do with that. Like I said, we could probably right now just fill the big leagues with a bunch of guys that throw 98. Like everybody throws 98, but then we'd be walking too many guys. Okay, so let's get back into a couple more stats. 2008. There were 200 fastballs thrown over 100 miles an hour in 2008. Okay? In 2016, there were over 1,500 fastballs thrown over 100 miles an hour. Okay? So that is quite a large jump. Some of that is from, a handful of guys that can do it, but so there's more guys now than ever that can throw over 100 miles an hour. It's absolutely crazy. Another interesting thing, over the last couple of years, that number's actually started to come down. Okay, so again, we went way up. Now we're kind of plateauing, and then slightly starting to come down. So interesting to see, will that continue to come down, or is that just a little bump in the road and we're going to go back up again? All right, so again, those are some stats for you. I think personally that pitching is one of those things where I don't know how much more, right? Guys are training harder than ever, right? Harder than ever. They're focusing on fastball velocity more than ever. There's technology everywhere. If you just go online right now and go on Twitter or watch MLB Network, or just check it out and watch these spring training bullpens that are going on, it is quite fascinating that there are now, behind every single bullpen, there are computers and cameras, right? They're tracking everything. There's high-speed cameras tracking how the ball's coming off the finger and release points. There's things tracking spin rate and velocity and biomechanics and everything, okay? When I was in spring training, I can vividly remember all of our bullpens. There was nothing. There was nothing back there. There were no cameras. There was no computers. There was no guys in khakis sitting down on the computers, okay? There was none of that. The only thing I really remember is when I went over to Baltimore, I remember they put these little sensors on the pitchers for like the first day in spring training or one of the early days of spring training, and had all the pitchers throw with it on, and they tracked how the pitchers moved. And they were looking at, how they moved and their arm action and all this stuff, and, which guys could be more susceptible to injury. But now it's crazy how much technology has improved and how much it's getting into the game. And so guys are training for velocity more than ever, right? So how much more how much further can we actually go? I think that we're getting close to the limit here of how hard guys can actually throw. I think that you probably will see it continue to tick. I think we're going to plateau here for a little bit. I think you will see maybe a little bit more of a tick up. But I don't think you'll ever see a guy throwing 107 miles an hour, 108 miles an hour, 110 miles an hour. I just don't think it's physically possible. But it'll be interesting, for sure. And I know that pitchers right now, or at least the last few years, the last 10 years or so, maybe not that far, last 5 years or so, have been ahead of hitters when it comes to the tech, right? All the science out there, and the development of the fastball. And the hitting numbers have come down, right? They've definitely come down. The strikeouts are way, way up, and hitting has come down. Now it'll be interesting. The hitters are starting to get a lot of that technology on their side, and they're battling back. But hitting is still the toughest thing to do in sport. And when a guy throws 100 miles an hour, it'll be interesting if hitters are able to catch up at all, because it's really, really difficult to do on those velos. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. What do you think about pitching velocities? If you're a pitcher, do you train for velocity more now than ever? How do you do it? Put in the comment section below. I'd like to see that. And that's all I got. Thanks so much again for watching, guys. I appreciate it. Share the video with all your friends. Give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you're not done so already. Check out all the other videos we've made. I've made a video every day for the last 2 years. So we've got over 1,500 videos. By the time you watch this, I might have 2,000. And I really appreciate you guys watching. That's why I make them. So thank you again, and we'll talk to you later.